At the end of the day, being a service business, you need to have consistency of process, consistency of technology, and also consistency of culture. It's not just the bank. I think any brand which wants to be relevant has to always keep building for the customer who's not in the room or for the next generation of customers. We are perhaps the only brand in the world, and it does not necessarily matter if you have scale or size, but we are the only brand in the world which explicitly says that imagined by human, created by AI. The largest consumer of technology is the BFSI space. And it requires humongous amount of creativity to think about how will you use technology to leverage and make business better. To sum it up, banking has become like design thinking.
Right.
And you need to think about the backward integration, the forward integration, the here and now, and say, how do I go out and create a aha experience?
Hello and welcome to the HT Brand Leadership Series, a series of one-on-one interactions with top brand and marketing leaders who share their industry insights and strategies that have helped shape their stories. The series, hosted by Hindustan Times, offers a behind-the-scenes look at how leaders adjust their strategies for changing consumer behavior while leveraging media channels that improve customer relationships. Today, we are joined by a leader who truly embodies transformation, MVS Murthy, Chief Marketing Officer at Federal Bank. From leading digital innovations in his past assignments, now steering the Federal Bank brand through a fast-changing world of finance, his journey is a masterclass in modern marketing. Welcome to the show, MVS.
Thank you, Abhishek, for your kind words, and that's quite a prolific introduction.
Our pleasure. It's our pleasure. I wanted to start the conversation by touching upon your tagline, which is "Rishta aapke saath hai, aapke saath nahi." In this whole gamut of fintech and BFSI conversations where everybody's talking about modern tech, you've taken a very interesting stand on humanizing the relationship with customers. Can you just walk us through this?
So the tagline tugs our heart, as a matter of fact, and it's not something which is just about advertising. So let me tell you a story behind it. The tagline was coined about 2 years before I had joined the bank, and I'm incidentally the first CMO that the bank has hired in its 91-year history. And when I joined the bank, I went out and traveled across the country, met a lot of my colleagues, and caught up with them, understood what are their pressure points, pain points, how do they want to see the brand, and stuff like that. And when I came back to Bombay, which is where I work out of, BKC, Ogilvy came in and they were our agency, and they said, we have this tagline, and would you want to sort of take this thing further? So the line originally was, "Rishta aap se hai, app se nahi." Now, we are a digitally savvy bank as much as we really value our service. So the insertion by the client, which is yours sincerely, was the word "sirf." So it became "Rishta aap se hai, sirf app se nahi." So what we're trying to tell people is that we have the best of both worlds. But truly, when it comes to a service industry like ours, I think the human quotient matters far more than what technology does. But of course, it has got its own efficiencies and stuff like that. But that's the background for the tagline of "Rishta aap se hai, sirf aap se nahi."
Yeah, because clearly after COVID, there has the digital transformation has seen a rapid pace, and clearly everybody had to catch up. And so, how does that become from a strategy priority for as a CMO for you? Obviously, communication also is inbuilt. How do you communicate to the customer that we are digital first?
Yeah. So let me break this question into two parts. One is the digital first aspect, and the other is our own service deliveries. At the end of the day, being a service business, you need to have consistency of process, consistency of technology, and also consistency of culture. Now, fortunately, we are blessed with a team which is not been attracting very heavily. We have a less than 2% attrition. So you'll see batches of people who have joined together but have moved into different kinds of roles. So that ensures that there is some kind of consistency when it comes to interactions with our customers, and that's what people love. We have customers who have been with us for the last 3 generations. Cut to the modern day, where you have technology, where you have digital efficiencies which have come in, and people want to sort of go out and do stuff very, very fast. And I'm very proud to tell you that Federal Bank is amongst the few banks which is powering a large part of the fintech ecosystem in the country. Whether it is on the lending side, whether it is on the liabilities side, we power it. So it's almost like an Intel Inside kind of a moment. And that gives us a sheen. So we collectively say that we are human at the core and digital to the fore. And it's a matter of great pride for me to tell you that across the bank, when you look at the youngsters who are joining the bank or the top management, both of us tend to balance the best of the human aspect and the technology as well.
Right. Now, you mentioned 3 generations. Now, there's also 4th generation, which is the younger audience who will probably become your customer. How are you repositioning Federal Bank to this generation? Because they are very particular about personalization and agility. How do you address that?
So Abhishek, it's not just the bank. I think any brand which wants to be relevant has to always keep building for the customer who's not in the room or for the next generation of customers. I mean, you can't keep skewing your business to people who are already with you. You always constantly worry about who's not there with me, and therefore I need to go out and get them. So if this generation of customer wants to go out and be a tech-heavy kind of a generation, definitely they can be our guests. But we know for a fact when something doesn't work, they need our people. Okay. So one is to train the people well so they're able to handle the customer queries properly, and the second is to give them the efficiency. So much so that today versus 20 years back, even investing has become an automated process. People know what they want to go out and do. So what we do as a bank is that we don't want to question our customers' intelligence, but we definitely want to empower our customer with efficiencies and speed up what they would have want to go out and do. However, when we know that our customer is taking a decision which is risky or which is not true to his profile or character, we will collectively put our hand up and say that, hey, this is not how you are. Do you still want to go out and do what you want to go and do? So in many ways, it is good to allow clients to go out and do what they want. At the same time, be true to your craft, which is being a banker. I need to take care of your money, and I need to ensure that you're not sort of, risking it all out. So I'll be balancing both of them.
I'm going to further ask you, my next question would be obviously extending from the earlier question, that in a digital ecosystem, how difficult it is to create a relationship with the customer, because you're also acquiring customers not from the branch perspective, but also talking to them through other platforms. So how do you express that?
So we are today a tech-first kind of a world. Everything begins, our first perhaps proposal to somebody whom we love is a WhatsApp message which goes out, all right? But still we want to go out and meet the person. And therefore it is important for you to have a human face, but you need to know how much of human and where to stop. At the end of the day, the kind of people we are talking to are all living in a digital kind of a world, right? From ordering for provisions, or if they want to go from point A to point B, or if they want to go out and watch a movie, everything is happening digitally. So we have to be a part of the larger ecosystem rather than trying to be at the periphery or trying to change the way consumers are going out and doing. And the best advantage for brands is if they go with the flow as far as the customers are concerned.
That brings us to the next challenge. That is because, unfortunately, BFSI is seen as a very boring category. It's not as sexy as FMCG or any other sector. How does marketing allow you to differentiate yourself from one institution to the other? Because insurance is a conversation not many youngsters want to have, but it's an important conversation. Similarly, banking is something, it's part of my daily life. Obviously I have a salary, or I have to accumulate my wealth in some way or the other. So how do you differentiate yourself when the communication pegs have to be created?
So let me make my answer more difficult to your question. Okay, I'm saying that not only is it boring, it is also commoditized. Correct. There is not much difference between 3 banks of a similar kind of a stature. Therefore, how do you go out and differentiate the whole thing? Again, it comes back to people. And when it comes to communication, everybody has got a savings account. Almost everybody in the country has got a savings account. Therefore, what do you go out and do? And in that, context is extremely important. So if you look at our present campaign, in which we have Vidya Balan as our first brand ambassador, we are talking about Savings Ki Vidya. If I didn't have Vidya, it would have been Savings Ki something else and not Vidya. Correct. Now, when consumers see this, and we have done a bit of research, they say, this is the reason why you have the play of words. So it becomes interesting, and then they are looking forward to saying, what is this guy going to go out and tell me, or what is this brand going to go out and tell me? And we have picked up slice of life moments which happen every day without being preachy, and telling people, and when people see the ads, both the ads that we have come out, oh, this happens to me also, let me go out and correct it. In that, the savings account becomes incidental, but the larger lifestyle is what you're connecting into. When brands are able to connect to people in their lifestyles, at the life stage that they are in, they have a better chance of building a loyal franchise rather than trying to be preachy, as I told you earlier, or try to go out and do a lot of change behavior. So we understand the balance, and it is clearly like managing a team. You need to give space to the kids. Similarly, you need to give a lot of space to your consumers. The other part, which I also want to sort of bring up here, is that unlike earlier, today we are competing on experience. We are not competing on products. So you as a consumer is also exposed to a cloud-based app through which you hail a car, or through an app by which you book airline tickets. So when you look at my app or my technology, you don't compare me with another bank. You compare me with the best in class which is on your phone, even listening to music. So I need to constantly keep sitting and thinking, how do I sort of move the bar up? And I will have to catch up with the best that you are experiencing presently.
I want to ask more questions on the Vidya jargon over here, because it also means that you have to also focus on financial literacy.
Yes.
So even today, if you have to go to the grassroots level, a lot of people still believe that cash is king. So how are you trying to change your communication strategy that it reaches every lowest common denominator, that a bank account is essential, because at the end of the day, it's also about financial inclusivity.
So let me make it a penny drop moment, okay? Almost a large part of our branch ecosystem is in tier 2, tier 3 towns. And lo behold, 92% of our transactions happen digitally. So it is a myth that there is still cash which is moving. Of course it is moving, and cash is a large part of our economy. But a lot of people are digitally savvy. Now you will have people who will say that don't come and meet me. You can do an online kind of a call. So clearly that part of the movement is happening, and which is where I told you earlier also, we need to sort of amp up our experience, because even somebody who's living in a tier 2, tier 3 town is experiencing the best of technology. And PIN codes are frankly history. I mean, it doesn't matter from which part of the country we are coming from. The challenge for us really is that with this integration in which digital is acting like a glue, we need to speak the language of our consumers. We can't be English speaking or a large language speaking kind of a brand, and we will need to tell the same stories over and over and over and over again across 29 states in the different dialects of those states which have. So the other thing that I'm very proud of us as a brand is that we think in our mother tongues and we respond in a language of communication. That is across the bank, and the brand lives what our people does.
Yeah, this is very similar to what Bhashani is all about, Digital India, where they are ensuring that financial inclusion not only happens from an accessibility point of view, but also communication point of view, when all languages are accessible. Let's come to some of your campaigns. Is there any particular campaign from Federal Bank or from a leadership that you feel that represents your brand vision, or that's something that we need to look forward to?
So let me be unabashed here, okay? Federal Bank has been the love of my life as a marketeer. It has given me a lot of space to go out and create narratives around marketing, in which a marketing mind would want to go out and do that. In that, there are two which are stand out, absolutely. Rishta Aapse, Sirf Aapse Nahi, which is what you referred to. And just to add to, the interesting thing about that campaign is that you will find that in our branches, people come to give marriage cards. People come and tell you that, we have had a child in the family, why don't you come for the Namkaran? So that's how deep it goes, okay? And it's not that these consumers are not exposed to other brands, but there is something we must be doing right, that it makes people to come to us for such very, very important moments. So this campaign is stand out for many, many reasons, not just the tagline. The other one is Savings Ki Vidya, because in a stereotypical way, you will typically find BFSI advertising about two men shaking hands, or it will be somebody giving a thumbs up, majorly male dominated.
Yes.
Okay. And savings account is all about saying that I have got better interest, so somebody else will come in and say, no, I have got better interest than you, so you'll get outshouted, or they'll say I have a feature which is like this. But at the end of the day, technology is porous. What you buy today, I can also go out and buy. There is product parity. You expect that most of the banks will go out and do well. And therefore, when I come and say Savings Ki Vidya, it takes away from the product or the mundane and says that how does this fit into my life? So both of these campaigns, and I can tell you with absolute pride that in the last 26 years of my career have been outstanding. More so, because we are a brand which was based in the south, and now suddenly we are covering a large part of the country. So it's like a regional brand getting national and global. So the point of inflection and the tailwind which is around it is just serendipitous.
Awesome. Those are very interesting insights, and with this new term, or rather, it's passé now. AI is being used so much nowadays, and especially when it comes to interacting with customers, there are AI bots, and I want to touch upon your past campaign which was the longest running social media campaign with Tata Mutual Fund. You tend to stick around a lot with innovation, as in it's something that really works for you. How are you bringing innovation into marketing at Federal Bank? Because you've already been doing it. So what is the next level or next stage that you want to take?
So for me to try something new, Abhishek, is a very intrinsic thing. I don't think there is a single day in my career, or even if I go down to my college days and stuff like that, where I have not thought of something new, and I'm a culture foodie. I love to read, so there is always a cross-pollination of ideas which keeps happening. That allows me to go on and do many new things. Not everything is successful. On a scale of 10, almost 9 fail, but the one which works for you works very, very well. And therefore, when you bring that innovation to marketing and everyday stuff, using it in a bot is like training a pet. The pet forgets, and then you have to train, and the pet also hallucinates, gets confused, so you have to keep training and constantly looking. So that's as far as the bot is concerned. The other part, which I can tell you with significant confidence because I have not seen it as of now, is that we are perhaps the only brand in the world, and it does not necessarily matter if you have scale or size, but we are the only brand in the world which explicitly says that imagined by human, created by AI. Because we believe that consumers and people who are interested in the brand have the right to know whether it is real, made by humans, or it is done by artificial intelligence, and therefore, they can take a decision. Having done that, a lot of my creatives happen through AI, a lot of my newsletters happen through AI, our bot is being run on AI, we go out and use AI to check our ATMs and stuff like that. So, we are being progressive with the entire thing, but when I need a line like Rishta aapse hai, sirf aapse nahi, or when I want to say savings ki vidya, I still bank on the intellectual heft which my agency partners get in, and that also gets approved because whether it's a good campaign or a bad campaign, it's always the client. It also gets approved because the client also has got a sense of what's happening in the market, and what is true of my consumers may not be true of yours. So I need to give you the right input to create memorable campaigns like what we just spoke of.
Perfect. Because I think what happens is that when you overuse technology, or you are too dependent on technology, the emotional angle somewhere fades away.
Yes.
Is it safe to conclude that you drive efficiency through tech and customer relationship through emotion and using storytelling? Is it safe to conclude?
Absolutely, that's the way it's got to be. I mean, we remember the Starship Enterprise, right? Despite there being Spock, Captain Kirk is the one who's taking decision. How much ever there is logic, there is a heart, and he ran the most complicated ship. He didn't even have men and women, but he also had people from different galaxies and planets and stuff like that. And there are so many times when he says, overrule. He just overrules the command. So the buck has to stop at a human, at a leadership level, and we can't allow tech to just run away. And I've sort of said this earlier also, but the future of technology is human.
So that takes me to the next part of the conversation, which is from your past experiences. I want to delve a little bit about your learnings that have helped shape you, wherein you've held leadership roles at Tata MF, ICICI Bank, Edelweiss, and even co-founded a tech startup.
Yes, I did.
And which phase do you think influenced you the most?
मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया. So there is no phase of my life, Abhishek, which has been boring. Every phase and every organization that I have worked for has given me immense amount of learning. But I can tell you this, that what I am today and all the excitement around is because of my parents, and they ensured that there is phenomenal education which is being given to me, and that's what got me here. If you ask me specifically what are the parts that I have loved to go out and do, I've always been a change agent. So the present role that I run is something which I sort of really, really go out and cherish. Not one, but I've had brush with entrepreneurship twice. In fact, we set up one of India's largest financial planning portal, personalized financial planning portal, just before the Lehman crisis happened. And then we had to shut it down because of the Lehman crisis and things. 2007. So that's the other one. And very early in my career, I was exposed to a company which was funded by Warburg Pincus. So I understand the energy or the entrepreneurial energy which an executive can get. So the entrepreneurial energy, great education, and of course having a great team to work and fantastic bosses is getting me and you to this conversation now.
Amazing, amazing. So, when you run your own company, you also have strong visibility on the P&L.
Yeah.
So, has marketing for you transformed into a P&L driven function, something which you may have experienced at Tata MF? Is that something you believe that modern marketers should also aim for from a P&L perspective? Because it's either ROI or it's P&L. I don't know how do you weigh that?
Yeah, so both of them are numbers at the end of the day. And from very early in my career, Abhishek, I have discovered this, that you need to track your numbers. If you aren't tracking it, somebody else is tracking it for you. And when you come to a situation where you're interacting with your board or you're being reviewed by your executive director, they all want to know what is the impact. At Federal Bank, for instance, I can tell you that before every campaign, even Savings Ki Vidya campaign going live, we have done a full baselining. In fact, yesterday I presented to our leadership team an interim update on how the campaign has fared, and we are sort of going gangbusters on the number of savings accounts which have got opened, on the balances, on the current accounts which are coming in. And this is good because there is somebody who's constantly looking at the horizon and saying how far are we from the land. So tracking is extremely important. Not just this, as a matter of practice, every member in my team tracks his or her numbers. So if somebody is running social media, she or he will track on the number of followers, impressions and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you bring it up to saying that how does it impact the P&L of my bank, or what is the ROI that I'm going on and getting in the campaign. The other part is that when you do this rigorously, there are, sometimes you don't do as well as the previous campaign. Sometimes you really hit the right spots and it goes on as well. But overall, despite the up and down, the trend and the support lines are upwards. All of this gets culminated into a marketing compendium, which we print. It's not a digital copy which will get lost in the emails, but it is printed, and about 50-60 odd copies are given to the board, it's given to the MD CEO, it's given to the business heads, it's given to the zonal heads. Because then everybody knows what is the kind of work that marketing has gone on and done, how do they track their entire business, and then we can move further. Otherwise, it's very nebulous. I mean, anybody can go out and say that, I can do a better campaign than what you have done.
Correct, because your learnings will also get captured in that.
Yes.
So you talked about being a little number driven, and is that
not little, very number
very number driven? I stand corrected. Is that because of your entrepreneurial stint with work apps? Is that something that we could cite that gave you that understanding?
When you are an engineer by education and then you apply the processes, your eyes keep running over numbers, so you can't miss them. And honestly, if you want to really survive in the corporate landscape, you need to have meaningful conversations, and the meaning is only the number. At the end of the day, the purpose of an enterprise is to ensure that the shareholders, the investors, the customers, the colleagues who are all working, all have a sense of pride of associating with you on the brand. And the only way that they will know that they are doing the right thing is when your stock value goes up or when you go out build. And all of these are numbers at the end of the day, right? When you say that today we are a 5,18,000 crore book, it's a number which people are proud of, and then you get measured from there. So I don't think there is an escape from chasing number, and anyone who wants to get into marketing should stop thinking about the razzmatazz around strategy or creative, but get down to the boring stuff of measuring numbers.
My God, you sound like a CFO or a CTO who's at the intersection of MarTech and looking at every decimal.
But you touch this, and this is what allows me to have a meaningful conversation with my CFO. It allows me to have a meaningful conversation with my MD and CEO, because there can be points where the CFO will say, despite all of this MVS, you can't take this campaign live because it's going to put pressure on the quarter numbers. And I understand that. Otherwise, you tend to become like, two spouses who don't want to talk to each other. But boss, ghar to chalana hai na tumko. Bas budget ye hai. And you can't run it in isolation. It's not about what I've committed to my agency or the media partner. At the end of the day, the money comes from here. So it allows for, and as you move into leadership levels, it's not about your individual skill sets as much as it is about your ability to collaborate. And finally, at individual levels, the buck stops with you. I mean, it doesn't matter how the other guy is driving his car or her car. You need to be sure about how you're driving your car. You may not know what you will be, but you should surely know what you don't want to be. And in that process, you become what you want to be.
I'm glad you talked about your conversations with the leadership, because my next set of questions are going to be around leadership and teams and culture. You mentioned how your conversations evolved with the CFO or with the CTO. So how does the boardroom dynamics change now? So how does one become an effective leader in the boardroom as from a marketing standpoint, especially when when we spoke about digital data and content teams all under one umbrella. So you're actually intersecting as a MarTech expert now. You're entering the room as a MarTech. So how do you manage those conversations?
I think if you step back and see, one of the largest functions of a board is governance. marketing, martech, digital is one of the many things which the board will go out and discuss. So there is a role. The other thing is that as marketeers, when we have an interaction with the board, you need to remember that you have an elevator pitch opportunity. And there are 8-10 members of the board, and there is a lot which is happening in terms of evaluating the company, planning out the next step. And in that, you are supposed to go out and deliver this. So even if it is a cameo, you need to be sure of what you want to go out and speak about. You need to be sure of what is the end objective that you want. You need to be sure of what are the approvals that you go out and seek, and put everything out there. And in a matter of 2 or 3 slides, just say it and get out. Because the more you keep ambling along and the more you are unclear or unsure, it is very distracting for the board. And honestly, in all humility, you can't have so much of footage in a board meeting. So it's good that you be the pinch hitter. And I strongly believe that when it comes to marketeers, we should know that we are not the guys who are scoring the goals. We are the guys who are setting the goals up. A CMO is the Beckham of the team. All right? In that, like bend it like Beckham ho jata hai, kabhi the ball goes into the goalpost. But your job is to keep coming back and feeding and expect that.
Setting up the game.
So understanding what your role is, understanding how much of space and time you have is very, very, very critical. And that happens with years of experience. At the end of the day, it is not you if you get a pushback. It is a fact that there are other priorities in the organization, and you need to have that sagacity to sort of pull back. Okay, I'll go out and try next time, which is again, Beckham has to set it up all over again and not feel bad that, oh, he didn't score.
Yeah. Can't give up.
Yeah.
That brings me to the next piece of question, wherein when you look at the banking sector, it's usually seen as a risk-averse sector.
Yeah.
And there's how much scope do you think is for creativity and experimentation? Because everything has to be tried and tested.
Yeah.
There has to be a blueprint that you can't change too much.
Yeah.
So how are you navigating that?
So if you view creativity from the lens of advertising, then I think it is a little myopic. But if you look at overall what is happening today in the world, the largest consumer of technology is the BFSI space. And it requires humongous amount of creativity to think about how will you use technology to leverage and make business better. That's one. Coming down to India, our greatest success story and reward to the world is the UPI, which is again a tech-driven platform. When you come further down, there is a digital currency which is happening. When you come further down, today there is a digital electricity grid which allows consumers like you and me to supply electricity to people. Our tolls, all of this is creativity. And what we have stumbled upon is not creativity in isolation, but creativity around ecosystems. Today, when we look back, we might be thinking these are random events which have happened. It's not random. It has been all thought out. As much as our tolls are getting digitized, there are those many number of roads which are coming in, and it requires creativity. So I think if you are a professional, being in the banking or technology space is the best space to be in today, because all the creativity that you can think of is happening here. We have technology called as File Pay, where your face is your password, and that's very unique. It's like the Digi-Yatra of the airports. This is creativity, because you live through the journey of a person and say, how do I make this workflow very easy? So, I mean, to sum it up, banking has become like design thinking.
Right.
And you need to think about the backward integration, the forward integration, the here and now, and say, how do I go out and create a aha experience?
Yeah, but then still, how do you keep pushing the envelope? I think that, and staying within the rules of compliance, I think that's.
Yeah, so here is the thing about compliance, okay? There is no percentage pregnancy. Either you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. Either you're compliant or you're not compliant. Having said so, you can get a lot of influence because of the way we are as a world about a lot of other businesses on how they are using technology. So it can also happen, and I must say that our regulators are very progressive to that extent. If you have an idea, you can go and talk to the regulator and say, this is what I want to go out and do, what do you think about it? And we must have the humility to say that perhaps we may get a pushback. But everybody is open to ideas. So it works on both ways. You have to be compliant. At the same time, keep trying to innovate. The innovation comes from what you see in and around you, and you bring back to your own desks and to your own workflows. And compliance, as I said, that I mean, there are no shades of grey. It's either this way or that.
Understood. I want to ask you one question, since we've touched upon your past 2 campaigns with Vidya Balan and Rishta Aapke Saath.
रिश्ता आपसे है, सिर्फ आपसे
Sirf absent ही. What would you tell somebody who's starting their professional journey, who's going to get his first salary and is going to open a bank account today? What would you tell him or her today?
So what I told you earlier, track your numbers. Okay, open a bank account with whomsoever you want to, but remember that it's your money. You need to trust that brand, and at some point in time, you will need to bump into human intervention if that brand or if that organization does not have a great service culture. Then you will start stuttering. When you are younger, you don't need as much support. When you get older, you need a lot of support. In this case, when you are younger, you have lesser responsibilities. You just have a savings bank account and you want to go out and invest in some random stuff. But as you keep getting into deeper and deeper into life stages, there are other aspects that you need to take care of. And at that point in time, time is going to be a premium. And when time is a premium, you want to have, or you want to second your troubles to somebody whom you can go out and trust. And hence the human element will always have a role to play. And I'm saying, why banking? Any service industry, you need to have people whom you can trust.
So now that you've said this to somebody who's opening a bank account, what would you tell somebody who's starting his or her career in marketing in BFSI? What would be your mantra of success?
I have held this, and particularly with marketeers, there are two things that I keep saying. One, and this one is like really, one, and there are nothing 10 beyond that, is that please track your numbers. Consistently, even if you're a social media manager and you manage the social media handles, please track how many followers you can. Track your numbers and speak about it very, very proudly. Build that as a muscle. It should become a muscle memory. The other thing that I will tell people is to go out and be away from your desks and meet as many people, stand in a mall, look at how people are buying, look at how people are consuming stuff, because you get a lot of insights from there. The two ads that you see is because of those kind of insights which we have bought in. The third thing that I would want to tell people is that please do not be overweight on digital. And somewhere our educational institutions are also responsible by giving us courses specifically in digital and leading us up the hill from where you can only go down. If you do not understand the entire principle of marketing, and digital is just one part of it, about brands, about consumers, about cultures, about regions, about landscapes, about nuances. I'm a fourth generation Maharashtrian, but there are different ways in which Marathi is also spoken. And this has got nothing to do with digital, but it's got to do with how you look at your consumers. Then your storytelling will not come properly. Some of the movies we love is not because they are very, very high on digital, a lot of the present movies, but because they have great narrative, because they have got great content. And to create that, you need to be using digital as a lever for excellence and efficiency, but not making it as the most important thing. I mean, you need to know which is the cart and which is the horse.
Yeah, so that basically means that you have to be as culturally immersed as possible, because with the way that current trends are going in, with generative AI and this hyper-personalization happening, you spoke that there has to be a certain human interface. So in the next 3 to 5 years, it's a difficult slope, because there's so much of push from digital, as you rightly said.
Yeah. So here's the thing. There are brands and they are all of different sizes. A very, very large brand will have a large market share, will have pressures of cost, will have pressures of creating efficiencies, and will also have a 100-year history, for example. In that 100 years, it has moved from a caterpillar to a butterfly, which means it has done a ATL campaign, it has had a significant brand ambassador, it has had a beautiful, memorable tagline which is remembered even now. They have gone and done a lot around the society. And here is a newbie who is just starting. This big brand is now using digital, and they are the ones who are pushing the numbers of the digital media industry and stuff like that. But can this newbie suddenly say, I will do only digital? But what about the other parts? What about building the customer franchise? What about impacting society? What about having a memorable tagline? What about having a great character? And our problem is that we think that growth or leadership is like, pop and it is good. It's not going to happen like that. There's a whole journey. So you can't suddenly run a 42-kilometer marathon. I mean, for somebody who's a little overweight, I first need to lose my belly fat and then start running. So which is the whole process of building a brand. I can't just sprint across. So the problem is that the ecosystem tends to overwhelm a young marketeer who's coming and saying everybody's doing digital. Oh, if I don't have a post up now, it's a somber moment, but I can say this to you today. We have pulled out our campaign after the Air India crash happened yesterday. We have no campaign on national television for the next 3 days. But that is something you can do when you have done the entire 360 degree on marketing, and you understand that at the end of the day, you're dealing with people. If your world revolves around getting an AI to generate something for you, or if you're living in a digital binary kind of a world, you will never know these nuances. And it will be ridiculous if your ad is shouting out of a news story which is talking about people who has passed away.
It's very interesting because even Amazon did that. They started their own bookstore, physical bookstore, and a lot of e-commerce brands in India have also opened. Like Lenskart was an online brand, and now they have so many stores. So I guess there has to be that human touch somewhere, and it makes a big difference. And how do you see Federal Bank staying ahead of this curve now that you have to balance it in the right way? It's not just in product offering, but in storytelling or in the brand perception. Where do you see Federal Bank hitting it out of the park?
So here is our story. Okay, we are about 1.3, 1.4, 1.7%, depending on what business you're talking of the entire banking industry. For me to move from that number to say 2% of the banking industry is going to be a huge jump for everybody. Everybody is going to be ecstatic. So I am not in a hurry to go and become the fastest. In a jungle, I need to be faster than the slowest because somebody else gets picked up behind me. And at the same time, I need to keep getting better and better than what I was before. To that extent, as a marketeer, as a team, we know that the glass is half full and there is still a half that you want to go out and do. A lot of stuff that other banks have done before or other people would have done before, we are doing it now. So for example, we are adding about 250 branches. Now every time you add a branch, there is a whole story around it. You need to do up the branch, you need to do some surround advertising around it, there is a campaign that you need to go out and run. So as a marketing team, we have even more work to do. But maybe the bigger guys, they don't have this luxury. So we are going out and putting that into place. The other part that we are actively working on is in trying to build our credit cards business. We are trying to build our personal loans business. There is the wealth management business which we want to go out and launch. There is a current account business. Transaction banking is something that we want to go out and build. So look at the amount of opportunity which is there for us as a team to go out and create. And it really doesn't matter, as I told you earlier, if somebody else has done it or no. But you have an exciting 10, 12 years to go out and be a part of a franchise which is really bubbling with excitement. And therefore, for anybody coming into the bank, if you spend 10 years, look at the amount of learning that you will have. And you will be the best placed in a decade from now, given the fact that we are also active and heavily invested in digital. We espouse technology, and culturally, as I told you, we understand that there is a human connect which is required.
So what kind of legacy you want to leave?
Hey, this is not a requiem on me. I have a long career. I'm not even thinking. But yeah, if you ask me how would I want to be remembered, I want to be remembered as somebody who bought his own person. He bought everything that he knew into building the brand and gave it all selflessly. In that, of course, I would have made mistakes and something would have worked for me. But someone who really carried the brands that I worked on my shoulder is what I would want to be remembered. But yeah, this is not even the interval of the movie, so there's a long way to go.
Sure. My last question is there any other brand that you admire that you say what they do is nice? I want to get there. Is there any global brand or Indian brand that you look up to?
Let me stump you on this. The brand that I'm very, very proud of is the Viksit Bharat brand. We were a country which was ruled by other people for almost 400-500 years, and we are a country which became independent just 75 years back. And the kind of growth and the opportunities that we have had, and it is a journey. We can say that some of the things were very slow, some of the things are very fast, but look at the amount of respect we have today. And is it over? No. There are still skirmishes which happen. There are still points where you need to sort of stand up and say no. But the opportunity which brand India is giving to a lot of youngsters, to a lot of us to repurpose our careers, changing the way people live and the lifestyles that we have is just phenomenal. And today, the Indian flag can stand at Geneva, it can stand at Antarctica, it can put a man up on the moon. Today we have Shubhanshu Shukla going into space. But look at the pride. So if there is any one brand which inspires me every day, and I think we underrate our mothers and the motherland as we go out and achieve the best. So if there is one brand I want to sort of, again, wear it on my chest, it is brand India and the Viksit Bharat story.
Interesting you said Viksit Bharat, indeed is a great brand story. How does that tie in with the financial inclusion model that you foresee right now?
Yeah. So if you look at the role of a bank, it is to promote prosperity. It is to promote prosperity of the nation. It is to promote prosperity of communities. It is to promote prosperity of the individuals. When you look at where our country is going, the Viksit Bharat story, and if you want to put some variance around it, we are trying to build a road infrastructure. There is about 38,000 kilometers of roads which are going to get built under the Bharatmala project. Okay, we are trying to connect all our ports, the Indian peninsula, and there is the Sagarmala project which is happening there. There is Udan, which is going to bring in about 250 airports into the country. What does all of this mean? It means that deeper and deeper parts of the country, pin codes of the country, are going to get connected to the mainstream. Add to this the layer of technology. So what would take about 5-10 years, suddenly will speed up the whole process, which means technically today, anybody can be an entrepreneur because supply chains are getting stronger. Yes. And if I have my mom making pickles or making jam in Shimla, he or she can ship limited edition of that jam or pickles all the way to Brussels because of the supply chain integration. And becoming entrepreneurial, and the more and more you have people entrepreneurial, it powers the economy far more than people looking for jobs. Because jobs always put pressure on livelihood, whereas entrepreneurship doesn't. And if you look at what Government of India is also doing, is that it is promoting the GI tagged products, which means mangoes, which means rice, which means some of the silk saris that we go out and use, all of them get GI tagged. Therefore, the artisans, the farmers who are working on it have more opportunity to sell it abroad because of this quality mark which is there, and hence passing down of prosperity. So that's the way the banking system is integrating. And our job is to get all of this cash or facilitate technology which will allow transfer of money without the need for people to disturb their existing lifestyle or comfort zones. And I think it is phenomenal. It is like being at many places without having moved an inch.
Amazing. I mean, those are fantastic and spectacular insights shared on Viksit Bharat. Thank you so much. It's indeed been a masterclass to have you, and thank you so much for sharing the lovely insights for our audience.
Thank you as much, Abhishek. Lovely catching up with you. Thank you. Thanks.
That's MVS. Thank you for sharing your journey, insights, and a refreshing perspective on banking and branding. From innovation to impact, your story is an inspiration to marketers across industries. We wish you and the team at Federal Bank continued success. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us on Hindustan Times Brand Leadership Series. See you on the next episode.